Hi there and welcome to One Up, the show with the latest reviews, news and previews. On today's show, we take a look at... Oh my god, we're being hit, but why? We're not a threat to anyone.
Warning, 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 warning.
You puny little man, you will dedicate this show to the most amazing man and game of the 21st century.
Okay. So on today's show, we look at 2011's instalment of Duke Nukem, entitled Duke Nukem Forever, and we bring the latest news from E3, and another chance to guess the anagram from our randomizer. That's all coming up today on One Up. In the news, Wii U has been revealed and set to be on the market for spring/summer of 2012. The console will have a wireless controller again, but with a screen built in, similar to the iPad, so that you can take the gaming anywhere with you. And don't worry, it will be backwards compatible for Wii games. Whether it will be for GameCube games is another matter. That's all the news. Okay, before we review the game, let's have a look at the history of the series. The original game of Duke Nukem was released in 1991 and was set in the year 1997, for then it was the near future, and the villain at this time was Dr. Proton, who aimed to take over the world with his tech bots. Duke Nukem takes it upon himself to defeat Proton as he travels into the future, to put a permanent end to his insane plan. The second name, entitled Duke Nukem 2, is also for the PC and was set in 1998, which in that year the evil Wrigleytons planned to enslave the Earth. They kidnap Duke in this game to use his brain and enslave everyone, but Duke breaks free to venture forth and save the world. When Duke came back onto the screens, it was this time in 21st century, and his evil nemesis had evolved to become aliens and mutants. The game had also become a first-person shooter instead of a platform game. This game was released in 1996 and is probably noted as the most recognised Duke Nukem game. It has been since re-released for the Xbox Live Arcade and the iPhone and iPod Touch in 2008. At this time in 1996 it was perhaps the most controversial game of its time due to its excessive strong language and sexual misogyny. The gameplay within Duke Forever is more or less based on the gameplay in Duke 3D, as it is a first-person shooter. The game levels consist of the same gameplay as the game from the late 90s, as you will have to face a boss at the end of each level, which usually turns out to be a giant alien or mutant. The controls of the game are pretty straightforward and resemble the most basic controls of a first-person shooter, with not many different functions, just a simple use of trigger buttons. The beginning of the game is too long, as well as being too sexist, which gives the game a poor starting point. Also, the ego of which Duke has makes the character hated by the audience. The game's fighting and crazy blind shooting is a high point in the gameplay. The new features in this include interactive surroundings. For instance, the urinal is at the beginning of the game in which you can use the pee in by using the trigger button. Also, there is a whiteboard at the start surrounded by Marines who await a battle plan. So, if you're feeling your inner child coming out when you go towards this whiteboard, and your head is telling you to draw a penis, draw a penis, draw a penis, then go for it. The interaction within the game doesn't stop at surroundings. It also goes as far as objects such as a piece of turd in the toilets at the start of the game, in which you can throw at other Marines or just throw at a wall. The game doesn't feature a health bar as before in the series, but instead it has an ego bar which more or less does the same thing. There are new power-ups as well, which have different effects. These are Steroids, Beer and Hollow Duke. Steroids increases the melee attacks for a limited amount of time. Beer makes Duke more resistant and makes the screen blur. And the Hollow Duke makes him invisible and creates a holographic Duke which comes out with more twisted one-liners. Detail has improved from Duke 3D but not to a high standard that a lot of fans were hoping for. This is a letdown within the game. The game overall is a highly addictive, fun shooting game once you get into it. But apart from that, there isn't really much of a story, and it is just a very arcade game. Let's go on to the ratings then. Games get rated on 3 different terms: gameplay, multiplayer/solo campaign, and detail. Each category can score a max of 10 points, meaning a game can get a total of 30 points. The gameplay got a 6. Same gameplay, not exceptionally different, but the boss battles rock. We focused on solo campaign for this week, which got a 3, as it feels a letdown as if they strung up an idea on the story a few months before its release. Detail got a 4. This is because it has been expanded more than Duke 3D, not to the extent people were expecting. This gives the total score of 13.
Okay, time for our randomizer now. This week's random anagram is... Secret of My Naked Lines. If you think you know what the game title or game character is, please leave it in the comment box below. That's the end of the show, I'm afraid, but don't worry, we'll be back next week with more game reviews.